Hi, I'm Tawanda Ewing, and this is Mindfull, a series where I draw from science, engineering, and personal experiences to give you an interesting perspective on everyday life. I hope you enjoy it, and let me know what you think in the comments. One of the things that were pointed out to me repeatedly growing up was that my choices have consequences. So it's important to always be careful when it comes to making decisions. Now more than ever, that warning is always playing in the back of my mind because as a 24-year-old, my decisions are starting to have a lot more impactful consequences for myself and the people around me. There's a way I like to look at how my decisions affect my life that has helped me make the whole process a little less daunting, and maybe it can help you out as well. It's based on a little bit of linear algebra, so this episode is going to be a little bit more abstract than the first two episodes, but I'll do my best to make the explanations as simple as possible. So let's get right into it. Okay, trick question. What dimension are we in right now? Take a moment to think about it. I'm sure some of you would have said third dimension, which isn't incorrect but not completely true. Now a few of you would have said fourth dimension, which is the answer I'm looking for. So how the heck are we in the fourth dimension? Well, let's start from the beginning and see how linear algebra can help us answer that. When I say the beginning, I mean the 0th dimension, which is a foreign concept, but bear with me for a second and let's imagine that the 0th dimension is a single dot in space. Now let's imagine that there's another dot in this space and we decide to draw a line that connects them. This line represents the first dimension, which is essentially a number line that stretches for infinity in both directions and gives us a way of interpreting the position of any dot that appears along the line relative to the others. The question now is, what happens when a dot appears in a location that isn't on this line? Well, it's as easy as drawing another line like this, and now we have another dimension of dots in our space. With these two one-dimensional lines, we now have something most of us are familiar with, a two-dimensional space where the location of any dot can be interpreted relative to the two lines. At this stage, I have to point out something important. Imagine yourself as a 2D character living in this 2D world. You could go your entire life unaware that there's a third dimension, but a character living in the third dimension would be fully aware of your existence. So just keep that in the back of your mind because it's going to come in handy soon. As you can see, I just sneaked in the third dimension using the same rule I used for the first two, and now we're in a familiar realm of length, width, and height. This is where you stopped if you said we live in the third dimension. And like I said, you're not wrong in a sense because there are only 3 spatial dimensions. But our 3D reality likes to do something we call moving through time, which can be explained by a 4th temporal dimension. To visualize this, we can add a dimension that's not connected to the 3 spatial ones. And as 3D space moves along this dimension, it changes, which is the world we know, never static, constantly changing with the flow of time. Now at this point, things are about to get interesting because we're taking this to the 5th dimension, and there's a useful trick we can use to visualize it. We're going to project our 4D space onto 2D space, where one dimension represents the flow of time and the other dimension, which is basically our 5th dimension, represents the different streams of time. So remember our 2D character who had no way of seeing the 3rd dimension? We're like that character, living our life in the 4th dimension with no way of ever seeing the 5th dimension. But just because we can't see it doesn't mean we shouldn't think about it. And here's what I think about it. At this point, you're probably wondering what the 5th dimension has to do with making decisions. And as usual, an example should help clear things up. Let's say you have a goal you're trying to achieve. Naturally, there are decisions you need to make along the way to achieving this goal. Sometimes we make the right decision and we get closer to our goal. Other times our decisions set us back, and that makes giving up very tempting. However, when you think about life in a fifth dimensional sense, you'll realize that there's always a good reason not to throw in the towel. Because among the multiple time streams of our lives that exist in the fifth dimension, we can always count on there being one that leads directly to the goal. The trick is to make sure that we stay on that timeline, and if we do deviate due to a decision we made, all we need to do is put in extra work to get us back on track. If I had to summarize the important points we learned from thinking about life in the fifth dimension, it'll be something like this. Well, first of all, there's always a path to my goal, right? That always exists. Secondly, I start in the right path until I start making decisions. The third and final point is that decisions that take me off the path aren't a train smash. It just means that I have to put in extra work to get back on track. Now, this is far from being an exact science, but it's a way of looking at things that I apply to my daily life. And I've got to say, it really keeps me going, especially in those moments when hope is running a little low. Hopefully, it'll help you do the same, and until next time, stay on the path. This video was brought to you by Umoja Urban Culture. Umoja Urban Culture is a store based in South Africa that specializes in Rasta wares and accessories. For more information, you can visit the store website at www.umojaurbanculture.co.za.